right, Napoleon of the Outlaws. I'm glad to have you back on Cam Capone News.
What's going on, Cam? Happy to be back, my man.
Man, that's what's up, man. It's always good to have, legendary old school guys on my show, man. I don't really get to interview a lot of guys from like my era of music. It's a lot of the stories have been told. It's dope. So I enjoy it a lot.
I'm happy to be back on the show, bro. I'm a fan. So I've been keeping up with the interviews.
Man, thank you, man. I appreciate it. That means a lot coming from you, man. For sure, for sure. Well, I'm going to get right into some of the biggest news that's been going on, man. Daz and Snoop have been going at it. And during them going at it and back and forth over their disagreement about money, Daz was saying that Snoop didn't even like Tupac and wouldn't let him play his music around him.
Yeah, that's crazy. What's crazy, because when family members, go at it, they blood, so eventually they're gonna get back together. You know what I mean? It's always the people that be in the middle and go on both sides and agitating. They end up being the losers. But I heard that before. I heard it from you know what I mean? I heard it before. We hear certain things that it could have been, I don't know if it was just like rivalry from, competition or jealousy. I don't really know what it was, but I heard it before that he wasn't really feeling Pac like that. And unfortunately, we did hear that. But you never know if it could have been, because I'm going to try to be just as much as possible. You know what I mean? So you don't know if it could have just been a rivalry when Pac came to Death Row, he was getting all the shine, all the attention. But to hear it from a person from the inside of the crew, then nobody can argue about it because he was there on the inside. You know what I mean? So even if I wanted to, say something like, oh, I don't think so, or whatever, if outsider, Daz was an insider when it came to that.
I know you guys, had, some disagreements and you guys had some things going on, with some tension and everything. We're going to get into all that. But, did you ever feel like Snoop just don't like Tupac? Like he don't, like he's not, like it's just, he's just here for the music and that's it.
To be honest, man, I never got those vibes until after Pac passed away. Because I do recall like when we was in the studio, even though we had our, it was times that we'd be in our studio, they'd be in their studio, and we don't really mess with each other like that other than a nod or what's up and, keep it going. When we first got to Death Row, we was like a family. Everybody was in and out of each other's studio. But I do remember it got to the point where we was doing our thing, they was doing their thing. But I could say after Pac died and he started doing these interviews, it seemed like he was doing a lot of, sneak or slick shots or, at Pac. That's when I started saying, even for me, when I started speaking up against these things, and it was from that standpoint of view, like, bro, if this is your friend and he passed away, it seemed like you keep like, you throwing these shots at him. But the way he do it is a very slick way where you're not going to really know unless you know him. You know what I mean? Or know his character to see that you're not bigging your friend up. You might have a smile on your face, but you actually speaking bad on him. You know what I mean? So I caught a lot of that after Pac died in his interviews. Like the part where he said, like, I'm a gangbanger. Pac could have got, he thought he dissed Nas. Like a lot of stuff that wasn't true. You know what I mean? Like you just like, it's like purposely you trying to throw your man under the bus. So that's why I didn't really like.
Right. So, Snoop's version of what happened with Nas seems to be really different than everybody else's version of what happened with Nas.
Exactly.
Because Snoop made it seem like that, Nas gave him a pass and everybody else had like a very different version of events than what happened.
It would have been bad on both sides. You know what I mean? I personally believe we would have had the upper hand. I believe that because I just know what I had on me and I know what, my boys from Jersey had. And that's not thinking about what Suge and his homies, but I can say it could have been messy. Not to say we punked Nas or he punked us. It could have been messy. I really appreciate how him and Pac handled it in a mature way because we needed to see that at that time that there's other ways that you can handle beef. So it could have really got messy, and ain't no telling who would have came out victorious. But I believe, because we was prepared. That's what I can say. We was prepared, so ain't no telling, how would it ended.
And you guys are from there.
From Jersey.
So it's not like, Tupac was on the East Coast and he didn't know anybody, or he didn't have a bunch of guys from the East Coast with him, or he didn't have access to things because he's from out of town. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, you guys were all there.
From Newark. I'm from Newark, from Irvington, which is, where I'm from in New Jersey, is closer to Manhattan than some cities in New York. We might have been closer to Manhattan than Brooklyn is, or I'm not sure, because I don't, I don't know the landscape of New York like that, but we're very close to New York, and we was there prepared, me and my homies. And then you also had, Gaddafi in their neighborhood, they block, Fatal in they block, you know what I mean? So we could have been real deep from Jersey. Then you got the death. So it could have been real crazy. So it wasn't like we definitely wasn't getting punked, especially back then.
What was Tupac's initial issue with Nas?
So Pac thought Nas, a lot of New York rappers back then, especially in the 90s, they was very, they used to diss people with subliminal messages. So Nas did a song with Mobb Deep, and it was a time where, Pac did an interview in a Vibe magazine, and he was talking about, the trouble that living a thug life was bringing him. He was going to jail, he was getting locked up, he got shot, and he was like, you know what, I'm gonna be cool on that. But of course, he's saying that, in a way he want to get out of prison. So if he go back to the judge, he want to show like, look, I'm a really, or he could have been sincere, genuine. I don't know. You know what I mean? But he was saying how the thug life was bringing him a lot of trouble. So they had a song on the hook, Mobb Deep, and Nas was saying something like, thug life, we still living it. And I think Nas, it seemed like, I'm not sure if it was that song or another song, but it seemed like he was taking shots at Pac, you know what I mean? So Pac was listening, and especially while he was in prison, he was able to, what can we say? He was paying attention to everything that was coming out on the East Coast back then. And he felt like they was throwing subliminal shots at him. So that's why, and when he met Nas, and Nas told him like, bro, I never diss you, Pac. And Pac believed him. That's why it was a good, thing to witness, that Pac was like, okay, I got some songs dissing you. When I go back to LA, I'm gonna remove these verses. And unfortunately, he didn't get the chance.
And that is true, man. The East Coast dudes did a lot of that type of stuff, man. Yeah, Nas too, because that's how him and Jay got first started.
Yeah,
they was taking subliminals at each other.
Yeah, Nas is one of the best when it comes to that pen. He's one of the best to ever do it. So, and he was good with putting them words together. So, you know what I mean? So Pac was like, okay, but Pac gonna come straight at you. He gonna say your name and everything.
Yeah. Tupac, he wasn't doing that. That's for sure. Okay, now I wanted to ask you, man. Daz and Snoop, they going at it over money, but I heard that you have completely disassociated yourself with any money coming in from back then, or at all, any royalties or any publishing in anything. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. So I accepted Islam, in 2002. And, the more that I learned about the religion, and I was at a point where I was probably getting tired of the music industry anyway, from a standpoint of just how tiring it was and cutthroat, you know what I mean? And I lost close friends. So when you come in the game with some friends, you're not with them on the long road, you kind of, your love for these things change. So, but as a Muslim, the more that I read about the religion of Islam, and music is not permissible. Musical instruments is not permissible. And the type of music that I'm putting out there is gangster music. It's talking about shooting, drugs, fornication, everything you could think of. So how can I take money from that? You understand? So I couldn't take money from that to feed my family from that, because it's called haram and permissible. You understand? So I had to walk away from everything. There was a good friend of mine, Jordanian homie. He kind of paid me, gave me some upfront money. No, he gave me not upfront money. He paid me some money to buy the publishing, and even that money I invested and lost everything. So it was like God wanted me, in my opinion, God wanted me to start off with a clean slate, you know what I mean, and all over again. And I don't regret it, you know what I mean. I don't want to feed my family. If I'm going to say, I'm not going to be a type of person that say, I don't agree with, you know, my music calling to fornication and killing. Even though we was kids, I'm not gonna be saying I don't agree with it, but then turn around taking money from it. That's hypocritical. You know what I mean? So
Okay, wow, man. Okay, but so you did sell it then? Okay, I thought it was just floating around there.
nah. Some of it
Okay.
is probably floating around. I'm sure that it's some stuff old. You gotta understand, man. We was on records that sold 40, 50 million records worldwide with Pac, not myself. You know, to clarify that, because people be saying, man, we don't, you know what I mean? Outlaws probably put out, we went independent, but when Pac died, we did put an album out that went platinum. You know, Still I Rise was a outlaw album, you know. So, and then we went independent, and we was getting $10 a CD. So even though people probably wasn't hearing about us, but back then, we could have been one of the first rappers that ever was on Koch. You know what I mean? And with Alan Grumblack and them, and then we was with a Bay Area record label. We was getting $10 a CD, so we was selling 200,000, 250,000 copies, but we was all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. You left some M's, man, that on the table,
Yeah,
man. That's pretty.
we left a lot, but I feel like God replaced it in ways that I probably can't even fathom. You know what I mean? Like, you know, just to be in a place, a peaceful environment is money can never buy that. You know what I mean? To be in
I
a
hear
peace,
that.
and
I
or
hear
just to
that.
be living your life in a peaceful manner, like, you know what I mean? That's something that money can buy.
I hear that. I hear that, man. Okay, well, man, I wanted to go back a little bit, man. To this time when Tupac was mad at Snoop about what he said on the radio about
Yes.
Biggie. Those were his
Yeah.
friends. Okay, can you take me
Exactly.
through that?
So Pac was so we in New York City, and you know, Snoop was on his way to the radio. From what I heard, he even told Pac to listen up. Like, you know, the homie White Dudes did an interview recently, and he was, because he was around one of Suge homies, White Dudes. He's very close to us, but he was in the limo when he said Snoop came up to Pac like, I'm about to be on the radio. Listen, I'm gonna shout you out or whatever. You know what I mean, etc. So when Pac listening to it, you know, Pac hear him say, you know, these my homeboys. When they asked him, how do you feel about Biggie and Puffy? Now, what really probably rubbed Pac the wrong way is that a man is a man. You have a right to be friends with whoever you want to be friends with. You understand? But what really pushed Pac the wrong way is because Snoop was in the West Coast doing songs dissing Biggie and Puffy. I'm talking about really doing songs dissing Biggie and Puffy. And dissing them to Pac face and saying that he not feeling them, and then gonna get on the radio and say that. So Pac, he just like, come on, bro. It's like now you're straddling the fence. Like, you don't even have to, you can be friends with these individuals, but don't be in front of me saying that they're not your friends and then go on the radio and say they are your friends. So that's why Pac really got upset about it.
Man, I seen that Tupac was like, he got into it with Suge over this.
I wasn't there, but I heard he got into an argument with Suge. You know what I mean? I heard that he got into an argument with Suge. And I see him and Suge, like, not really bump heads, but, you know, Pac was a man, like, and I think Buntry said that in his interview, like, man, Pac wasn't scared of Suge. You know, people paint this picture, especially those that never met Pac, they paint this picture like he was on death row and you know, he was like some other artists that Suge was punking and stuff. It wasn't happening with Pac. One, they had a mutual respect, and two, the personality and character of Pac, he not having it. I'm just, he wasn't gonna have it. You know what I mean? No matter who you was, he not gonna be on the label where a man is just punking him. I know Pac personality, and we're not saying he's the biggest gangster or nothing like that, because you don't have to be a gangster to stand up for yourself. That's called being a man. You know what I mean? Having a backbone. And Pac, from his character, he wouldn't allow that. You know what I mean? So him and Suge was very close, of course, and they gonna bump heads from time to time.
Now, this happens, and I interviewed Reggie, and he said he believed that Snoop and Tupac would have eventually been cool again.
So now we get back, security, Michael Moore, I think it was the security, telling me, man, Pac was hitting the ceiling in the limo. I was mad. Like, I'm the dead man now. Now all New York know we ain't family no more. We ain't together. We ain't, we don't have each other back. And he hollering that. This motherfucker disloyal. I'm gonna Snoop up. I'm gonna have him rushed when he get back. When we get back to LA, I'm having the dog pound rush. Not the dog pound.
Outlaws.
The outlaws rush him and all of that is what he hollering. Pac mad. So Snoop was like, what the fuck? You know, because the Dogg Pound ain't with him. He was mainly out here with us. And, you know, he ain't got a bunch of his boys with us. And Snoop like, what the fuck? You know, what I do? What's the problem? And he really had that look, like confused, not really understanding what he had just done. You got to remember, that's when we go back. You got to remember all the things that happened. Pac got shot. Dogg Pound trailer get shot up. Suge this Puffy at the Source Awards. We come out there for Saturday Night Live. Big Jake. We come out there for Saturday Night Live taping. We stayed in a hotel somewhere else. Soul Train Awards had happened, even though that was in L.A.
That's right.
All of this stuff had happened, and now this motherfucker talking about doing music with the enemies, or, you know, the dudes that had something to do with me in my mind getting shot, or who I've been at war with. If I'm right or wrong, you hanging with me, I'm in your family. Now you telling me you don't mind working with them? You, this is the way Pac died, feeling about Snoop. We can all try to be a Snoop fan and a Pac fan. If you're really a Pac fan, Snoop's a bitch when Pac died. I do believe they would eventually made up. I really do believe that. But you got to remember, this is how Pac was thinking prior to his death. So anyway, that's what happened at the MTV Music Awards. And that's why Snoop wasn't in that car, or he wasn't out in Vegas when Pac and Suge was shot.
You never know.
What do you think about that?
Probably so, because Pac is he probably would have been mad at, he had real love for Snoop. I can vouch for that. Like, he really had love for Snoop. So I'm sure if they would have talked like men, and Pac probably would have had the opportunity to tell Snoop how he felt, and Snoop would have had the opportunity to at least explain why he done that, they probably would have got cool again. You feel me? Like, even Pac and Biggie, I believe, would have got cool again. Because I heard Pac out of his own mouth say, I don't want nothing bad happen to Biggie. I heard him say that. You know what I mean? So I'm sure that if he would have probably, but he was like, I remember his words, I can't say, exactly what he said, but it was on the line of, I don't want nothing bad to happen to him, but I'ma spank him. Like, he's like my little brother, he gonna have to get spanked. So that's why Pac was coming at him, but he never really wanted nothing bad to happen to him.
Man, okay.
From what I know, but then you got to think, when things start getting out of control and violence starting to play a part of it, then of course his mindset probably was different.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that too. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it seemed like they had a really good friendship at one point.
Yeah, because that's who Pac is, man. If he's with you, he's with you. You understand? And I guess that's why when he feel betrayed by people, it hurt the most, because he not that type of individual who's gonna betray you. You understand? So he's gonna be loyal with you. So I guess that's what really get to him, that like, man, I'm going all the way for you and I'm here for you and you betray me. That's the reason why he really flip out like that. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Now, you said Snoop was dissing Biggie. I know that there's a song out there, but what was Snoop's energy towards Biggie when you guys were around him?
When we was around, they got their trailer shot up. They came back to LA and they went straight to the studio dissing him. Like, I remember, you know what I mean? Like, in the studio listening to a song. I can't say the lyrics or remember, but I remember Snoop was getting at Biggie, dissing him, like literally on lyrics, you know what I mean? Dissing him. So, and because they remember Biggie got on the radio and told people where they at, like they at this location. So the vibe was that he was looking at him the same way Pac was talking, his stuff against Biggie. Snoop was right there doing it. You know what I mean? That's what I really don't understand either, because, you know what I mean? We understand, like, everybody grow, and maturity is a good thing. Like, the way I feel right now is not the same way I think, my mindset, during those days. You know what I mean? But so maturity happens, people grow out of things, and things get corny when you like, come on, man, we beefing. But when you're in the midst of it and you playing two sides of the fence, that's not correct. You know what I mean? Because it shows your character. It shows your character, okay, this is the type of person, because if you're going to be with your boys and good, you're supposed to be down with them. Even if you don't agree with them, you pull them to the side and you say, look, I don't agree with you. I'm not going to get on the radio and say they're my friends, but Pac, I think you're wrong. Do that. Because everybody respect an individual like that. It comes down to your character now when you're playing both sides of the fence.
Yeah, man, the whole thing about Snoop's version of events back then is for me, just from the outside, I don't really understand. Everybody, you know, says what you're saying, right? You know what I'm saying? But Snoop has a different version of events, and I'm like, I don't even understand why Snoop would lie about this because it's just history.
Yeah.
It's just what happened. It's not like, you're telling your story, and it doesn't mean that that's what you're like on today.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? We all know, you know what I'm saying, you guys have, squashed everything with Little C's, and you guys have moved on. You're just telling your story, you know what I'm saying, and talking about hip-hop history.
Exactly.
So I never really understood why Snoop always has these different stories that he's insisted on releasing, or saying.
And what like you said, is history. People, we get on an interview and they ask us these questions. We only explaining what we remember to the best of our ability. Like you said, doesn't mean we're on that now. So you have a right to say, back then I was like this, but right now I don't agree with that. You know what I mean? But he come online and be like, man, stop talking and this is not the 90s, but you online telling your side of the 90s stories but it's inaccurate. You know what I mean? So of course I have a right as a friend of Pac that's not here to defend himself or even just explain that I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to argue because, we living in a time, everybody have their opinion. Opinions, you can, there's people that dislike Pac. There's people I see in the comments say, I'm not arguing with them online because I say, well, they have a right to feel this way. What really, I just don't, if you his friend and you coming online and saying, and Pac died probably thinking that, y'all got some type of, camaraderie, then don't do him like that. You know what I mean? That's all. So it's not really, you know what I mean? It's not really like we just out to attack Snoop because we want to be relevant and do interviews like like whatever he's saying, because life is not like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember I even seen Snoop say that Tupac was the reason why he got married or why he stayed with his wife, and Tupac convinced him that she was a good woman.
Yeah, he was going to, I remember that. I remember he was going to divorce his wife. I guess he had his pit bull that he loved, and she tied the dog, and the dog hung himself. And he was really upset to the point he was about to divorce his wife, and Pac sat him down like, bro, this is a woman that you've been with for years. She's been down with you for years. This is a dog. We understand you love your dog, and it was a mistake that happened, but you don't divorce a woman or leave her. And yeah, Pac like pretty much helped him keep his marriage together. Talked him into not leaving his wife at that time. And I remember, after he died, or because of that, right after Pac died, he wanted to name his son. He's saying I don't know if it was his first son or second son, but he was like, I'm gonna name him Tupac. He didn't do it, you know what I mean? But he said that to me personally. You know what I mean? But
damn,
so people, he could probably had a chance. Maybe his wife wasn't down with it, but you never know. But Pac did help him keep his marriage together.
Damn. Maybe, maybe Tupac, Snoop was just mad at the time,
Maybe.
He was just maybe upset about the whole situation. I heard that plane ride home was pretty tense.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, I seen, But when people that was there, like, it's not like they had him on plane and was going to do something to him. You understand? I don't think nothing was going to happen to him, Just to be clear, like, he was still a death row artist. And from, looking at hindsight, I think even though they didn't agree with him, Suge ain't gonna let nothing happen to him. He still, like, Snoop has some respectable people around him, reputable people around him. Like I mentioned all the time, like he had some good, like, Big C style, Trey D. Like Snoop had some real soldiers around him and I'm sure they're not gonna just let anybody do anything to him. So maybe because he felt guilty on that plane ride because of what he done, and he thought, you know what I mean? But I don't think they wanted, it still was a level of respect there. They still artists, so I don't think it was that, like the Wild Wild West where they like, now it's time to get Snoop. If anything, if Pac wanted to fight him head up or something like that, that's how it was back then on Death Row. Because Snoop was their artist. He still was a household name at that particular time. You know what I mean? And that's why nothing happened to him. You know, he was thinking something like that gonna happen to him on the ride because Pac was like, I don't want to talk to you, but nothing happened to him.
That would have been crazy if Tupac and Snoop fought, bro.
Yeah.
That would have been like the most legendary hip hop fight in history, man. Okay, man. So, all right, man. So you talked about, the friction between you guys and Dog Pound, and going to the studio and things not being the same. Is there a turning point that happened to where things started to change?
I think I'm trying to think what led up to that. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't know, bro. Like, we just start feeling it, like that separation. And like I remember when Pop first came to Death Row, it was one big family. Then people just was like, we do our thing, you do your thing. So I really don't know exactly what happened, but there was a few incidents. I wasn't there, like when Pac was in, he got into it with Corrupt. Shout out to Corrupt, because Corrupt, my man. Like, I don't think there's nobody who really don't like. Everybody love Corrupt. He's just a good dude, you know what I mean? So Pac got into it with Corrupt, and I think Nate Dogg said something, and Dad said he said something as well. We wasn't there, you understand, because it probably would have definitely went down. So, but I do remember when Pac came back, it was one of them things where it probably planted something in our heart against him. Like, come on, Pac, because, if they saying they was, you got into it with him and you telling us you got into it, we going to be a little distance with him now. You know what I mean? So I remember I just wanted to, like, let us fight him. But Pac came back and said that at that time, like, Dog Pound, Outlaws, or whatever we got to do, let's do it. But Pac's like, nah, just leave it alone. That's what I said. So when you hear people saying Pac was like this wild troublemaker, a lot of time he probably stopped a lot of stuff from really exploding, like really, you know what I mean? Because back then we was real wild, and it was nothing for us to, do whatever we wanted to do. And Pac, he wasn't having that. He's like, nah, y'all chill out. We here, business, getting the studio right, stay focused. So he was more on that. He wasn't just like this wild individual that, the people paying him like he just want to fight this person and that person. A lot of times he stopped a lot of stuff from happening.
Would you say Tupac was more calm behind the scenes than he was in the public?
He had his days, bro. Like, he was one of them dudes where, some days he calm, some days he blowing up, agitated, whatever. You know what I mean? But I can say he wasn't an individual like just everyday wilding out. Like what a lot of people think that. Like he was just this young troublemaker getting into trouble and stuff like that. But, a lot of times he just wanted to work. He wasn't even going to nightclubs, and he just wanted to be in the studio on a movie set. But he was young. A lot of people also have to realize Pac was 25 years old. Like, I got a 26-year-old right now that I still look at as a kid. You know what I mean? Like, of course, he's a young man, but 25 years old with a lot of responsibility, a lot of weight on his shoulder, taking care of his family, just almost got murdered, went to prison. At 25 years old, went through all of that. You know what I mean? So, of course, he gonna make a lot of mistakes. He gonna do a lot of stuff that, you know what I mean? And it's trial and error for youngsters these days, And it doesn't mean Pac gonna get past that trial and error stage. So a lot of the stuff was trial and error for him as well,
Tupac did so much work. He got out of jail, and then I mean, he was only out of jail like a year, not even a year before he passed away, right?
Yeah, I would say he was out of jail for like I think he was only on death row for 9 months. But when you look back at it, it's crazy because it feel like it was years. Like it feel like a lot. It doesn't feel like less than a year that we was on death row while Pac was alive. Like it just seemed like it was a lot of work. You know what I mean? A lot of stuff happened. That's crazy. It's crazy.
He filmed like 3 movies, right? I mean, a Gridlock, a Bullet, and I want to say one more.
Now, Bullet was way before he went to death row, but he did at least 2 Gridlock.
Okay.
Gridlock, and then there was a police movie he did with the Belushi guy.
Right.
So he did at least 2 movies,
and
at least, and then like so many albums, so many records. So he was busy. for 9 months for 25 years old, fighting so many cases. Like he, you know what I mean? Like I don't really, you know, that was a heavy load. You know, when I look back at it now, I can say, wow, 25 years old, even the way he carried himself, he always seemed more mature, more older. You understand? So yeah, so people got to keep that in mind too. Like when they say, well, he did this and he started that, and he was really a kid though, 25, young man basically.
Did you have problems keeping up with Tupac? Like, were you with him, you know, from the time he got out of jail to the time he passed away? Were you with him that whole time?
I was with him. I lived with him. You know what I mean? All of the outlaws, we lived in the same house with him from the time he went to prison. We was visiting him, you know what I mean? And when he came to death row, we was there. That's what brought us to LA. So we was with him the whole
Okay,
time,
so
you know?
so you guys were working from the minute you got up to the minute you went to sleep?
Nah, stop, bro. Like you know, I could say what led me to realize that our work ethics was different is when, you know, not to put them down, like Snoop and them probably be in the studio, they might do one song a day. Like we're going there, we hear a song, one song a day. But I remember when we went to Houston, because we signed like a deal with Rap a Lot at one point after Pop passed away. And even Jay Prince, I see him whenever, if I see him to this day, sometime we bring this up. And I remember all the artists, like big artists, they would probably do one song a day, but we was doing 3 or 4 because that's how Pop trained us. So when we start seeing artists only doing one song a day, that was weird to us. But it wasn't the norm. Pac made us believe it was the norm because that's how he worked. His work ethics was like that. We had to just keep up with him. So when you started realizing that his work ethics was a little more more focused and a little more intense than others, you know, I didn't see that until he passed away. Realized that until he passed away.
What was like the fastest song you ever seen him write? Is there ever a time where you seen him write a song so fast you were like, there's no way?
So many, but I just remember that Machiavelli album. I couldn't believe it was done because my grandmother passed away. So I went back to Jersey to bury her. And I was calling, you know, still calling LA, checking up on everybody. And they like, man, Pop about to start his new album, you know, Machiavelli album, this and that. So I'm like, oh, cool. I'm gonna get back and get on some songs and stuff like that. And I remember calling like 6 days later, they like, it's finished. Like, huh? Album finished? And I got back and I did the last song we ever done, and the last song I ever done with him was Life of an Outlaw song. But they was like, yeah, it's finished. I'm like, 6 days later. That's why I call it the 6-day or 7-day theory, something like that. Like done. Like I'm on to the next.
Damn, that's wild, man. Okay, I seen that, you know, after Tupac passed away, that you confronted Snoop.
Yes.
So what all happened with that?
So after Pop passed away, Death Row called a meeting. We went back to LA. And Suge called a meeting with all the artists, everybody that's on Death Row. And for some reason, he told me to speak. That, you know what I mean? Like everybody was talking, and then Suge was like, you know, we're gonna let Pac little homie speak. And everybody was saying they love about Pac, but what I went straight at Snoop. You know what I mean? Because I'm confused. I want, like, he was talking like this love, and I miss him and I love him, whatever he was saying. But then I was like, you know what, Snoop, man, you know, you saying all of this stuff about Pop, but you were just on the radio saying that Biggie and them is not your friend. I mean, your friends, and then you in Pop face dissing Biggie and them, and you know what I mean. You really was acting like Two-Face, and you wasn't really a friend like that. Like you saying all of this good stuff now, but why would you do that to your man if you really love them? Like, you know what I mean? Like these type of words. And I remember he said something on the lines of, Pac was more like Malcolm X, I'm more like Martin Luther King. You know what I mean? And which I kind of understand. People personality is different. Basically, Pac is a little more fiery. He's more diplomatic. That's how I look at it. You know what I mean? And so I just started coming at him about that. Like, bro, why you do this? Why you did that? Why, you know what I mean? And I just couldn't do a talk and without at least, getting that off my chest,
How was it received by everybody, do you think?
Everybody was quiet, because after that, Snoop, he very diplomatic. Like he started saying, well, some things we didn't agree with because he Malcolm X, I'm Martin Luther King, I love him, and you know what I mean? Like, but I could tell ever since then, my relationship with him, it wasn't like we were like tight like that, but I could tell he probably was like, wow, this is the one that's gonna speak. Like he, it was a little distance after that. You know what I mean? It was a little distance after that. But and that's how like usually when a person die, when your homeboy die, especially if you're from the streets, the code of the streets, you look out for them or you look out for their family. You know what I mean? When Pac died, it wasn't really no love. You start seeing people true color.
Were you guys still around death row after Tupac passed away?
So after Pac died, what happened is we went to Atlanta and we chilled with Pac mom's home for a little bit. And we was just trying to figure out what's the next strategy, what we're gonna do. Some of us went to Jersey, and I always had a relationship with Suge to a degree, and I also had a relationship with like Reggie and stuff like that. I was one from the Outlaws that always kept these, phone calls. So I would call Death Row, you know what I mean, and eventually we wanted to get back in the music industry. So the only people that we was familiar with was Suge and them. So we called, I believe I spoke to Reggie or Suge brother-in-law. I'm like, look, we ready to come back. We ready to work. And they was like, y'all want to be on Death Row? I think they was a little shocked. It might have been Reggie or one of them might. And I was like, yeah, tell Suge. Suge was locked up at this time that, yeah, we want to come back and we want to work. And that's how we was able to get that contract and started working with Death Row. But it didn't work out, because Suge never released the album. And I think he wanted to buy publishing and we didn't agree with it. Like something like that. And then after that, it's like it felt like they were shelving, like just put us on the shelf and it wasn't no movement, even though we had access to the studio or whatever we wanted to, but it wasn't nothing like we didn't see nothing else coming after that. So eventually we went to court, got released from Death Row. I went to see Suge personally. I went to the Outlaws. They were saying they don't want to be on Death Row. We all agreed. And we was going to send them a letter to the lawyer direct, from lawyer to lawyer. I just live by a different code. I said, I think I'd rather go look at them face to face, you know what I mean, and tell them face to face we want to get off of Death Row. Reggie took me to the prison and I told him, that we want to get off of Death Row. I just, you know what I mean? I just look at it like weird, like this dude locked up. He know we have access to him. Why would we send a lawyer? Like, even if we want to get off, let's keep it to a certain, respect, man, like it's a manly thing, respect, you know what I mean? And I remember telling him we want to get off of Death Row, and his words is like, it's cool. I ain't about to hold nobody who don't want to be down. That's what he said. But he never released us. So when he didn't release us, unfortunately, then we had to bring the lawyers and go through the court and stuff like that.
Man, I remember, after Tupac passed, everybody was like hyped for you guys to come out on Death Row.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why they didn't put an album out like that with you guys, man. Yeah. Like, for real, man. Like, I
it was a good timing. It would have been a good timing because of the controversy. Pac just passed away. People might want to hear what his homies got to say, but they didn't, for whatever reason. Maybe he was going through stuff behind the scenes we didn't know with the record labels and stuff like that. Because they was going through some stuff. So I think we just got caught in the middle of a bunch of like lawsuits he was going through, changing distribution. We just got caught in the middle at a bad time.
Yeah. But you guys did end up working with him. You put Still I Rise out. So
yeah, we put Still I Rise.
That was dope.
Yeah.
You had all the leaks come out. I mean, like it was like every week, Machiavelli 2, Machiavelli 3.
That was crazy.
That's
because it was engineers sneaking stuff out to the studio and stuff like that, They were sneaking songs out the studio and selling them back then. That's what people was doing.
Yeah, man, I remember seeing Machiavelli 17.
Yeah, people just put on and this probably was a bunch of old songs, like from people was putting all types of stuff out.
Yeah, it was nuts, man. I mean, there was a lot of good. Like, I feel like they could have even just took the stuff that you guys already did with Pac, and there's a lot of stuff that I heard that I didn't even hear on Still I Rise. Like, there was a lot of stuff with you guys.
There was a lot of stuff
that
could, like you said, could have been, but I guess it was just the timing was off. You know what I mean? That timing was off, man, and it is what it is. Everything is written. You know what I mean? Everything is written. Everything happened for a reason.
Were you gone when Snoop left? Were you guys around when Snoop left?
Yeah, I think we was there when Snoop left. You know what I mean? Like when the controversy started popping off, we was. Damn, that's a good question. That's a good question, to be honest. But I do remember we stopped seeing people in the studio, and for a long time he wasn't coming in the studio. So maybe he was setting himself up to get off of death row.
And then he goes to No Limit.
He went to No Limit. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, we might have been off about that time. I believe so.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we was off by that time.
But okay, now Daz stayed. I think he stayed the longest.
Daz stayed, and then Corrupt came back. Because we did do some music with Daz on the Gridlock soundtrack. So yeah, I think Snoop was going. Actually, I think we was there. He was going already. Then right after that, I think we got off. He's like, now it's time, to do our own thing, and we just went independent. We went to, I think it was called Bayside or something. Some people from the Bay Area. Then we ended up going to Koch. You know what I mean? With Alan Grunblack and them over there. And we just stayed independent, I think we had a 1 album deal with them.
One thing that Daz recently came out and said is that Suge was behind creating a rift between Tupac and Big Syke.
I think if you look back at it right now, it could have probably been handled with more wisdom, because you got to understand, like, Big Syke was Pac homie. So when Pac got out of jail, Big Syke brought this guy around named Bogart. Bogart was from Schoolyard Crips. Big Syke was from Inglewood, IVC, Imperial Village Crip. But Big Syke knew Bogart and trusted Bogart. Even while Pac was in prison, he was saying, like, this is a dude, very solid. I know him. I think they even did some time together. And he loyal, but he's also, very solid individual. So Pac said, bring him around. So they was getting some money every month. Ain't no telling what it was. Could have been a couple $1,000. Back then that was okay for them back then. And then it got to the point where they felt like they deserved more. So what I believe what happened is the payments was coming from death row. You understand? So the payments to Big Syke and Bogart was coming from death row. So instead of Big Syke going to Pac, he went straight to Suge. Like, you signing these checks and you paying me as if I'm security, for example, I need to get more. And from what I remember, Suge went to Pac and told him, like, yeah, they came behind my back. They came behind your back and they asked me for money. So I don't know if Suge instigated something. I wasn't there to have that conversation, but Pac took it in that way. You know what I mean? So Pac took it in a way like, that wasn't professional. That was wrong. Why would you go behind my back to Suge? Which I think at that point, like I can say, like, you got to understand, Pac make mistakes. That's a thing I wasn't agreed on with Pac. Like, I think you should have, that's your homie. It shouldn't have been, no one should have got between that. You understand? And so I think that was a thing that Pac, sometimes he get up, and you got to understand, he was on this, I wouldn't really say paranoia, but he coming from some friends that he thought was his homies on the East Coast that crossed him. So it's like anything that he see that look like something is shady, he flipping out over it. You understand? Even though Big Syke ain't that type of person, he wasn't that type of dude. Big Syke was solid. Like, he really had Pac back. So I don't know if Suge went to him and kind of made it seem like it was wrong, or Pac took it like that on his own. But anyway, it should have been what it is. I know the reason why Syke did it. It's not that he trying to go behind Pac and do something shady. Because Big Syke told me the conversation. He told me, like, bro, if you the man I'm going to come at you like a man. I'm doing business with you. It's not like the money was going to Pac and Pac paying Big Syke. So then Big Syke have a right to go to, when Big Syke need to get paid, he was going to Suge to get his money. So he look at it like I should be able to talk to him about giving me more money, whatever. You know what I mean?
Gosh, I mean, looking back on it, I mean, just hearing about it, it doesn't seem like, it seemed like it was just a conversation that could have just fixed everything. It could have been a conversation
because Big Syke was solid. You know what I mean? That dude was solid. And he was one of the, even me, I was kind of sad when he wasn't around after that, because he was like a solid dude. He was probably the first one that started putting me up on game when it came to like the gang politics of LA. Like, he started putting me up like, bro, do this, do that. And Even Bogart, he used to take me to his hood a lot, joke with me like, man, you want to run a fade with my little homies? Bro, let's do it. I mean, one day he tried to see how far it's going to go. He thought I was going to be scared. I jumped in the car and said, let's go. You know, we went all the way to the hood, schoolyard, crip hood. And then he was testing me like, nah, I'm joking. I was like, bro, whatever, let's do it. But they was loyal dudes, man. Big Syke was definitely, he was a good dude. Good dude.
I've seen a lot of people say that they believe that Suge like instigated Tupac or put a battery in his back.
In which way?
Well, just kind of like, hyping him up to do things or,
that's
saying?
wrong.
Maybe
that's what I can say.
Pushing him.
That's wrong. So I see a lot of people say that, like, Suge is the one that made Pac say this. Suge is the one that, bruh, that's not true. First of all, Suge wasn't in the studio like that to say, Pac, do this and do that. You know what I mean? Or tell him what to do a song about. That's who Pac was. If anything, Suge probably would have toned it down a little bit. But that's what Pac wanted to do. All them diss records was Pac. All them controversial, statements or whatever was from Pac. Like Suge, you know what I mean? It seemed like when Pac came, he even started having Suge go a little more to that side. You know what I mean? But talking about like dissing and putting out diss tracks and stuff like that. But nah, that's who Pac was. Before he went to Death Row, he used to write us letters and scratching people. He'd write a letter just saying what's up, had Biggie name scratching it off, put Killer behind it, and he was on it before he got out of prison. Freestyling us, telling us, spitting lyrics when we go visit him, diss songs. Nah, he wasn't. He was already on it. But one thing I could say is that if Suge was older and more mature, he should have been the one to try to say, calm down. You understand? Because you got to understand, like, Pac was already wild and he came to Death Row with a chip on his shoulder from what happened to him. Unfortunately, he didn't have nobody to really be like, okay, pipe down, don't do this, don't say that. Like, everybody need that. Everybody need a person that's going to really be, telling, you got to be a true friend to say, look, I don't think you should do that. You know what I mean? I just think that him and Suge was just like the same type of energy. You know what I mean? Without one telling the other one to calm down. And that's what ended up his demise, unfortunately. You understand? Nobody there to check him and say,
Yeah, I remember hearing about Tupac signing to Death Row. And I just remember everybody was just like, this is like the perfect combination ever in music history. Like, and it,
yeah.
It turned out to be like good for music, but bad for life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was he needed somebody around. But like, and he Syke could have been that to an extent. But everything happened for a reason, bro. It was written for you. The day you're gonna die, God already got that written.
Now, I interviewed Roger Bonds, Diddy's former head of security.
Yeah.
And he was telling me that Diddy idolized Tupac.
See, people got the misconception that Suge and Puff always was enemies. They wasn't always enemies. They was friends at one time. You know what I'm saying? Actually real friends. So, even now I listen to Suge say different things, but he always says, I don't wish that on nobody. I don't wish them to be in jail. I don't wish that on other. So it was a love and hate relationship that got out of hand and went too far. So that goes back to your question of, do I think he had anything to do with Tupac murder? And to answer that question, I would say no. Simply because in a funny way, he idolized Tupac. In a funny way, he loved Tupac music. He loved Tupac movies and different things like that. So in order to have that type of situation go down, I feel like Puff is too much of a private person to deal with so many people in a situation like that. That's just my answer.
I could see that. I can see that.
and then it was a little off.
I can see that though. I can see a lot of these people who had that deep hatred for Pac. Because you got to understand, Pac was that man back then. Very versatile, dress. Probably one of the first rappers you see dressing in Versace. He started all that, and everything he was doing, you were seeing it. They was doing everything he was doing. You know what I mean? As far as type of records they was putting out, type of videos they was putting out. You know what I mean? Like, so I can see that.
Now, Tupac talks about a Biggie taking a lot of his style, the Versace and all that. Because Biggie wasn't doing that before Pac went to jail. What was, behind the scenes, what was Pac's thoughts on that and everything?
Yeah, he knew that they was like Biggie and Puffy. If you go back and look how they was before they started hanging around Pac, how he started telling them, Pac helped them a lot in music. He was telling Biggie, do songs about that, talk about this, and dress like this.
Do songs for the ladies, right?
Yeah, exactly. Dress like this. He didn't mind giving you the game. He just felt like when you crossed him, like he deserved more respect. That's how Pac was coming at him and really upset because he like, I put you on game. I showed you how to dress. I showed you how to make records, and then you stabbed me in the back. But before that, he like, I'm gonna tell whoever I gotta tell, whoever game I gotta give. If you the homie, I'm gonna give you that game. You know what I mean? So he did help him with a lot.
Do you think Diddy was jealous of Tupac and Biggie's friendship?
I seen that, as far as I seen that before by some interviews. It's hard for me to tell because I never met Biggie. You know what I mean? I never met Biggie. Some of the Outlaws met him. Only time I ever met Puffy, I was snatching the mic from him. I never been around these guys to see they dealings, you know what I mean? I pretty much have a good insight on, reading people, but it's hard to answer that. Like, I'm sure some of the other Outlaws, because they did songs with Biggie, they hung around Puffy and Biggie when everything was all good. But for me, I never been in the mix of when everything was going good. I never seen them, so... but I heard an interview, I forget who said it, where they said it seemed like, Biggie, like Puffy was jealous of the relationship they had. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, when I interviewed Idi Amin, he said that Puff stopped Biggie from being in Thug Life. I believe he had a friendship with Little C's and Junior Mafia back then?
Yeah, we was all cool, man. It was absolutely, the camps was cool, man. Like, Big wanted to be in Thug Life, and Pac wanted him to be a part of Thug Life, and, wanted him on the album. And I think there was some clearance issues with Puff at the time. He didn't want Big putting too much material out before he started putting his out. So Pac couldn't get him on the album, but absolutely, man, it was all love.
Biggie wanted to be in Thug Life. Okay, this is something I've never heard. I did not know that. So before Biggie blew up, they had this, as everybody knows, they had this really, pretty good friendship and relationship, man. And it was so tight that Biggie and Pac, he was actually wanted to be part of Thug Life. That would have been crazy.
Well, you got to understand that during this time, man, Puff's situation was in limbo. You know what I mean? He had just left Uptown Records. He hadn't got that new deal yet, but he had Biggie as an artist. You know what I mean? And Big is he trying to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? He's not the notorious B.I.G. yet. He's still doing what he's doing. You know what I mean? He talked about it in his music, so you already know where I'm going with it. You know what I mean? Big was actually going in and out of town doing what he had to do to put food on the table. And so Pac is on. Pac is a major star, coming to New York, doing movies, doing press, you know what I mean? And he's hitting Big up like, yo, come through. And he's like having Big come to the Waldorf Astoria. You know what I'm saying? Big is coming from Brooklyn. Big ain't never even been in the Waldorf Astoria until, he's coming to hang out with Tupac, who's a bona fide star. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility, or it's not hard to believe that he's looking at it like, yo, I don't know what's going on over here, but homie is rolling and he with me and I can get on.
You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, Big, I'm sure, was loyal to Puff and he wanted to wait. You know what I'm saying? And actually, Pac was one of the people that told him to wait. Like, nah, Puff gonna make you a star. I was a witness to that conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, Pac, like, nah, chill, Puff will make you a star. You know what I mean? He know what he doing. Just be patient. It's all gonna work out. You know, just being an encouraging energy for Big because he was, you know, feeling kind of desperate at that time. And, you know, obviously wanted to get on so he could put his stamp on the game. And that was on the time, you've heard these stories, Pac was letting them come, open up shows, and this is all around that same time.
That was like, you know, and I was like, damn, bro, I didn't even know Biggie was gonna be part of Thug Life.
Yeah.
That would have been, you know.
Yeah, that'd have probably, yeah. So that's
Yeah, that'd
crazy.
have
Yeah.
been
So
crazy,
that's why I
man.
said like Edie and them, they remember more these things and details because they was around at that time.
Now, Hit 'Em Up, man. I mean, this is like, man, probably like, in my opinion, the best diss song ever. You know, but not too long ago, Ice Cube came out saying the Hit 'Em Up isn't the best because Tupac had help.
Yeah, I seen that interview.
The best is the best, whether you have help or don't have help.
Exactly, yeah.
Whether it's
And
a solo song
right,
or not,
and
you know?
everybody had their opinion. I think Ice Cube and Pac probably would have had his opinion and said, no, I think Hit 'Em Up is the best. Cube gonna say his opinion, and he have a right to feel that way. You know what I mean? Cube is a legend. You know what I mean? Like that dude is a legend. He probably opened up the doors to come a little aggressive and diss records. To be honest, Cube probably was one of the first one that came at it like that. But you know, that's his opinion, and I kind of get where he coming from. But nah, I think back then it's not help. It's just that because a lot of people don't know Hit 'Em Up was an outlaw song. So Hit 'Em Up was supposed to go on the Outlaw album. It was an outlaw song. So Pac at the beginning didn't really want it to be, he wanted it to be part of it, but he wanted to make it seem like it's the Outlaws that's coming out with this song. And he just on the song with us. But I guess when it became, that's probably the one decision that Suge made that worked for Pac, where he was like, no, I want it to be a B-side of one of Pac. Pac had a single that was coming out, and because it was getting a lot of play on the radio, they automatically rushed it to be a Pac B-side on a Pac single. But eventually, Outlaws, the Hit 'Em Up was a song that was going on our album. You know what I mean? And so that's why the Outlaws is on it, really. Not for help, you know?
Now, what was the plan for you guys when Tupac was alive? Was it to put an album out? Like, how soon were you guys supposed to drop?
Soon, like Pac was going to put the Machiavelli album out, and he was going to start a record label. I don't know if it was Machiavelli Records or Euthanasia Records. Outlaw was going to be the first artist on his label, distributed to Death Row. That's what I recall. So when you hear people saying Pac was going to get off of Death Row, me, myself personally, I never heard him talk that talk. I heard him did say that, I don't want you guys signing to Death Row because you're going to sign to me. That's what he said. You understand? So he was definitely going to start putting out albums, outlaw albums out. He was going to put an album out because he really was trying to end the East Coast, West Coast beef. So he wanted to put an album out called One Nation, where he was bringing a lot of rappers like, you know, was it Smith and Wesson, Buckshot, you know, a lot of rappers from the East Coast and the West Coast. He was going to put this album out. He was going to try to end the so-called East Coast, West Coast beef. So, but the plan was that he was going to start putting the Outlaw's album out. It was, you know, it was our run.
Now, so you guys were assigned to Death Row at that time?
At that time, we wasn't. We were just with Pac in the studio, you know, that's it, just hanging around doing songs, holding them down, carrying the guns, being security / rappers. That was our role back then.
The Hit 'Em Up track, you know, Ice Cube thought that you guys went too far. You know, what's your thoughts on that? Do you guys think you went too far?
You know, as a Muslim man, of course, I would say, yeah, we went too far. Like at my state of mind now, you understand? Because you're talking about a person's wife and these type of things. But back then, I didn't see it like it went too far. When I was in the midst of it, I felt like it was something that it was valid at that time. You know, but people grow up, you mature now, you know what I mean? So I can look back at it now, maybe because of my mindset is different, my lifestyle is different. So I would say like I wouldn't agree with it. You understand? Um, Especially coming at people wives and stuff like that. No matter what, no, I'm a firm believer that a man, no matter what, even as a Muslim, have a right to defend himself, has a right to fight back, have a right to stand on his 2 feet, whatever it takes, to get the harm away from you, do it. I believe that, you know what I mean? But so, but I don't agree with attacking a person's family, you understand, or coming at them in my mindset right now. Back then, I thought it was okay.
Now, I seen Ice-T talk about this, and he said that Tupac went to his house, showed him, hit him up, and Ice-T told him, "You're going in on his wife. That's not a good idea." And he said that they were on bad terms because he wanted him to ride with him.
Man, yeah, like, but Pac, I think it was just the heat that Pac just a type of in the heat of the moment he just go in. You know what I mean? He just go in like he just it was very controversial in his cell and it worked back then. You understand? But who knows? Pop probably would have got old and if he would have survived, God willing, we don't know. Only God knows. Like, not to say that it wasn't written for him to pass away, because it happens, but if we probably would have got a chance. That sounds better. If we probably would have got a chance to see the mature side of Pop, he probably would have not agreed with that as well. But he passed away at that stage, 25 years old.
What did Snoop think about Hit 'Em Up?
He loved it. From what I know, bumping his head. He was on stage whenever Pac was performing it, dancing to it.
Right, they have the I believe it's the last show you guys did at the House of Blues, and Snoop is definitely smiling,
and I think doing
laughing.
some ad-libs and stuff like that. Yeah. So he loved it back then. Don't know how he feel about it now. He's a grandfather now, so he probably have every reason to say, I'm not feeling it,
Were you guys expecting Biggie to respond?
We was at the beginning. We thought, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to go back and forth. We really thought, but I don't know. Maybe that was his strategy to not respond. He did respond after Pac died. You understand? Which was odd to me, where, when I look back at it, I say the only time he ever replied was when after Pac passed away. You understand? So, but we thought he was going to go back and forth, and it was probably going to be going back and forth. And because that was hip hop too. You know what I mean? That's what you're used to in hip hop. You start going back and forth with each other. You know what I mean? But he was quiet until Pac died. He started doing the subliminal disses. Like I said, the New York rappers back then, they was doing a lot of shots, taking a lot of shots. And it seemed like most of his, his replies was after Pac died.
Right. There was the I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad at you.
Yeah, and then
type of thing.
He he rapped it on the radio in LA, and bullets coming at you, something like that. Like, it was, I ain't mad at you, like you said. So it seemed like he replied, but he replied to a man who's dead. You know what I mean? So never got that. You know what I mean? I never understood that. Like you join the fight when the fight is over. That's how I looked at it back then. You understand?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, yeah.
It just something
I
like,
I guess,
my bad to cut you off. It's just some codes that
it's all good.
it's just some codes that I thank God that I had in me, that I still carry with me, to this day, that once a person is dead, he's off limits. You understand? Like, even now, I'm not going to say nothing bad about Biggie, but this is a reality of what happened, that he did this Pac after Pac died. Like, after that, we just going to leave it alone. Like, come on, you dead. Even if we have beef with you, it's no need to continue down that path. You understand? So, but I guess, people different, man,
And you guys never dissed Biggie after he died?
Never. I know I haven't. You know what I mean? I know I haven't. I'm just not. I know it's a new thing now with these new rappers. They be dissing people, dead homies and stuff. We came in a different era. You know what I mean? It was a different era. It was a different code that even, once you dead, you off limits. You know what I mean? So we wasn't doing none of that back then.
Well, I guess people started calling the radio station, giving Biggie death threats.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember that. They be like, you got to call online, and he'd be like, man, you better get out of LA. And one thing about LA, you gotta take them threats serious. You know what I mean? You gotta take them, not LA, anywhere. You gotta take you don't just belittle these threats, but I guess they was out there for a while. You know, LA can be, it can be deceiving for East Coast cats. You know what I mean? Even for us, when we first started going to LA, I remember we was in Compton one night and we were standing outside, and it's like the suburbs. But I remember Trey, one of Suge homies, like, man, y'all bet we was in front of Suge mother house. He's like, man, y'all better get in this house right now. And any minute, a person to turn that corner with an AK, dumping. Like he said, this is where you at. Like that type of environment. We couldn't get it coming from the East Coast because we see like a lawn, they got grass, they got palm trees. So it can be deceiving, but it get active. You understand? So when you get them threats, you gotta take it serious.
How much time did you guys spend in Compton?
I used to go back, even after Pac died, I used to spend a good amount of time in Compton because White Deuce, like I said, is one of Suge little homies, and he was like part of the outlaw clique. I used to spend a lot of time at his grandmother's house, and I used to go back and forth sometimes with Heron before he got killed. So I was going, but now I know the threat. At that point, I kind of knew the threat level, even though I didn't know about Heron that, you know, people was looking for him and, you know, trying to kill him. You know what I mean? But I was riding out there a lot because they was living in you know, North Hollywood. So sometime I go to Compton with them. So we were spending some time, but at that point I knew it get down, so I was being more careful. You know what I mean?
How much time did Tupac spend in Compton?
I don't know. He was going back and forth. It wasn't like, just to be clear, it wasn't like we were just out there hanging in Compton, like just out there hanging and saying we in the hood. Because one, we was out there for work. I don't even think Sugar was out in Compton like that. They was going for events. Let's say he going out to get some turkey out or something like that, or give, you know, money to the poor. Like Suge, Pac could go out there with him, but we wasn't just hanging out there like in the middle of the hood. You know what I mean? Just hanging. Like even when I was going back and forth, I go to the homie house and chill with them. But then it's time to go. You understand? We were smart enough to not, you know, I wouldn't even do that in my own hood going back home. I go out there back for some time and get off the block. You know, what's gonna come? What's gonna happen if you out there, you know? Eventually somebody gonna turn that corner, you some shooting, or you're gonna get it, you know what I mean? People gotta be wise. So when you got a lot of these new rappers, they trying to prove themselves by going to the hood. Nothing wrong. We're not saying look down on the hood. You understand? But you should be going to the hood to try to better the hood. Not to go say, look, man, I'm still on the block in my neighborhood. Like, you know what I mean? Most of your haters is from your own community. Unfortunately, as we see.
How do you think Tupac, speaking of like, you know, how things are today, you know, how do you think Tupac would, what do you think he would think of like today's hip hop and the way things are now?
I don't even know what's going on with today's hip hop other than that. Other than this, there's just a lot of you know, the music probably took a turn from from what I'm hearing and understanding is that they promote more drug use. We come from an era we ain't really promote that type of stuff. We look at you as a junkie. We was, you know what I mean? Like it seemed like they really promoting drug use. So he probably, because Pac had a side of him that he wanted the community to be better. He wanted to better the community, especially the youth. He had that side in him. He just got lost on the way. Like his goal was, I don't want to go too far away from that message that the Black Panther had about better in your community. But I'm not going to be able to do it the way my parents did it because we living in a different time. So that was Pac mindset. But he just got, you know, on his way, he just ran into some obstacles that he probably didn't, you know, foresee. You know what I mean?
One thing that I remember back then, man, is like the fans were on Pac's side. Like like, you know, like people hated Biggie. You know, like the fans hated Biggie. You know, I even interviewed
Yeah, I remember
Boosie.
that. Yeah.
And in the interview, he told me, you know, he was a really big Tupac fan. He said he felt like Biggie and Puff were his ops. You loved Tupac so much that you hated Big and Puff at the time.
Yeah. I felt like they was my ops at the time. You know, because I'm a kid, bro. You know, I know they beefing. I didn't know nothing. All I'm thinking is Puff did it, Big shot. You know, I'm a kid. I'm 13 years old. This a 5-year run of nothing but Tupac. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. You know how kids be. Don't be knowing what the be going on. You know, if he don't like you, I don't like you. I don't care who you are. It's a real fan, bro. You know, like the fans get on thing and be
The fans do it today just
the
as much.
Beehives and the Nicki Minaj fans. Like, we ain't gotta know what the story is. Don't with him. Don't with her. Like, I'm against you. And that's how it was with Tupac, man. I mean, everybody he disliked, I disliked.
Yeah. I remember that time. I remember, you know, in my neighborhood in Irvington, maybe the whole of Newark back then, you can't even play no Biggie songs. And I like you ain't even, bro. We was breaking CDs and tapes, kicking dudes up the butt. Like you ain't coming around that block playing no Biggie. And like we really look at it as a disrespect. I remember that, especially in Jersey. You understand where you definitely can't play no Biggie or Pop. And the whole Jersey was with Pop, even though we 30 minutes from New York, Manhattan.
Okay, that's kind of right. So, because it would seem like Jersey would have really loved Biggie.
Yeah, but the Jersey we was from at that time, Newark, Irvington. If you was a Biggie fan back then, you had to kind of you had to hide it in Jersey. I'm being serious. In the 90s, like you gotta, you know what I mean? You like Jersey. A lot of people don't know was the first on the East Coast. If I'm not mistaken, but they was the first one that started banging, like Bloods, Crips, Pirus, like Jersey. I remember seeing that before, and then years later, you started hearing about these things happening in New York. But I remember Jersey, even from like the Naughty by Nature, like you know, Tretchenham. They had something called Double I, Inglewood and Illtown, because East Orange they used to call it Illtown, and they was bringing Bloods out there, like you know. So we had gangbanging in Jersey before I seen it in other parts of the East Coast. So for some reason, Jersey, I'm not saying it's a good thing, you know what I mean? For people killing each other over colors, of course, that's not what I'm promoting, but we always been with the West Coast. I don't know what it is now. Like you got hoods, you got Grape Street, and I'm from a city called Irvington, which is next to Newark. Like my neighborhood back in the day was Mount Piru. My neighborhood. And then across, you had another neighborhood where they was called they was like the projects. They just knocked them down. They was the Rolling 60s. You understand? And then you had Rolling 60s from LA that used to go there. Then you had Grape Street. You know what I mean? You had these hoods like in Jersey in the 90s. It's crazy.
Dang, that's early too, man. Yeah,
That was early.
I mean, they started to spread. So it spread to that area first.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe it came there first, and that's because and I believe the love it has something to do with Pac. You know what I mean? Like really blowing up the West Coast and that point to the East Coast at that, because Pac had that East Coast swag as well, originally from New York. So he kind of like people growing up, we always had a lot of love for the West Coast. I'm not gonna front. Like I had homies that had perm in their hair, and he had switches on his car from my block because of Snoop Dogg.
Really?
Because of Snoop. Like we had a homie, my homie Trax. Shout out to Haitian American dude. He put switches on his car, and then he used to come outside with a perm, and you know, because of when he first started seeing Snoop. So Jersey, I guess also because you know New York back then had this arrogance. Like if you ain't from New York, you corny. And Jersey, we didn't fit in with New York. We didn't fit in with Philly. We just had our own thing going on. That part of Jersey, I mean.
That's crazy. I would have never thought that New Jersey would have been that influenced by the West Coast, man.
Yeah, it was.
That's kind of wild, man. You know, well, do you know around when that turn happened? Do you know, like, around what years did that start to happen?
I would say 97, you know, at about 97, 98. Because we used to have homies from Compton come visit our neighborhood, and they were shocked. You know what I mean? And I would say about 96, 97, after Pac died, it just started, you know, everybody started getting a MOB tattoo. I remember that because Pac started promoting it. You started seeing that more. And so it was like the late 90s it started.
Okay. Speaking of the MOB tattoo, what, from your point of view, what did that tattoo symbolize? Was that for Piru in Compton, or did it mean something else?
You know, it's really hard to say. Cause Pac had a song. Cause Pac had a song called "Money Over." I don't want to say it. You know what I mean? I'm Muslim. You know what I mean? Money over girls,
Yep.
let's say. And so he had a song with the Outlaws promoting that. So I would believe it was more for that. I would believe so. You know what I mean?
And he got the tattoo when he got out of prison, right?
Yeah, he got it in LA when he was on death row.
Did anybody ever question him about the tattoo? Like any of the Pyru homies or anything?
I don't think so. I started saying like people after Pac passed away, like some people was against it if they felt like he got it to represent them, which I understand. You know what I mean? Like you gotta understand, like, because Pac wasn't a gang member. So if you're a real gang member and you might feel some type of way, we understand. I don't believe Pac did it because he wanted to be a gang member. Me personally, you know what I mean? But you have some that was around him who believe he did it for that. And they felt like, you know, he shouldn't have had it. And if that's how they feel, that's their hood, whatever, you know what I mean? But like I said, I thought Pac did it mainly, either he did it for the songs or just to show love to Suge, because Pac was a loyal individual. You know what I mean? Maybe he's like, man, this is my showing my loyalty to Suge. He bailed me out. This is his hood. Let me show a little respect. I really don't know. You know what I mean? That's one of the things he never opened up or even spoke about, really.
Did Tupac feel like he owed Suge a lot for bailing him out?
Yeah, he was loyal. He felt like he ride with him. Pac is a loyal dude, so he felt like, and I think that was led up to his death. Really, if it was basically showing like these people bailing me out, they whip me every day, so they beef is my beef. Pac was that type of person. You understand? So I believe his loyalty, he definitely wanted to show Suge loyalty.
Now, there's been a lot of people with different opinions on whose idea was it for Pac to come to death row, or who put up the money for him to get bailed out. You know, from your point of view, you know, what's your thoughts on all that?
You know, I believe Pac wife, he was married to this girl named Keisha back then, and he used to have Keisha call death row looking for Suge. I never heard Pac saying, look, let's get in touch with Snoop and have Snoop. He knew Suge already. You know what I mean? I heard at one point Suge wanted to sign him already. That's how that seed was already planted. Pac knew Suge wanted to sign him, but back then, Pac he didn't want to mess with death row back then. You understand? So he had Keisha calling death row looking for Suge Knight. And for what I believe, and I remember he said Suge put up the money to bail him out. I'm just talking about from what you know, the conversations that I heard Pac out of his own mouth and the moves he was making.
What was it about death row that Tupac didn't want to mess with early on?
Back then, I seen a video, like I seen an interview with White Deuce. White Deuce, as I mentioned, family, part of the Outlaws, but he also from Compton, from Suge Hood. And he said that Suge told him back then that Suge wanted to sign him. They had a conversation, and Suge was telling Pac, like, man, but you know, that's when Pac was really militant, and some of the words and stuff was against racist white people, and so he told Pac, like, man, you gotta like tune that down a little bit, keep going at the white man and stuff like that. And he said, Pac was like, man, then forget you too, and walked out the meeting. He's like, man, I ain't signing to you. You ain't gonna tell me what to do. So that's what stopped it from happening back then, where Pac's like, man, you ain't about to tell me what to do.
Okay. You know, I seen at one point that he was talking to Ruthless or Easy about signing. Is there any truth to that?
I never heard about it. I never heard. Who mentioned it though?
Who mentioned it, man?
Yeah, but I kind of I heard someone
it.
say it in an interview before, but I don't recall. You know what I mean? I don't recall.
It might have been Money B.
See, Money B might be correct though, because you got to understand Pac has so many different people around him, and you know, some people might have caught something that we didn't catch, or hear something, you know, we heard something they didn't hear. So he might have been right. He probably was at that time gonna go with powerhouse, like people that, because Pac felt like he was up against, you know, whoever tried to kill him and back on the East Coast, he needed a strong team behind him. You know what I mean?
Everything that came out about him being shot, I remember when that guy came out and admitted to doing it.
Yeah.
That was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I heard something like, I forget who it was. I don't think I watched the whole interview, but I remember, some of the stuff that he said was on point. You know what I mean? Where they leaned towards, who that guy said it was crazy. So Pac, he ain't really know who did it back then, but it was that circle. You feel me?
Yeah, I mean, looking at Jimmy Henchman now, I mean, he's doing life.
Yeah. So I think that's who the guy said it was, Jimmy Henchman, right?
Well, he said that Jimmy Henchman sent him.
Paid
Yeah.
him. And like I said, Pac
Paid him.
Pac thought it was Haitian Jack, and Haitian Jack seemed like he was the one honest at this point. Like, you know what I mean? So Haitian Jack really was I had nothing to do with it. And it come to find out that the dude that went there said Jimmy Henchman sent him. You understand? So Pac ain't really know back then. We ran into Haitian Jack one time and he said that to us. He's like, bro, I ain't never seen nobody to do nothing to Pac. You know what I mean? And so all these dudes, they get on the internet and start telling on themselves.
Yeah, no, I remember that interview. I think his name is Dexter.
Yeah, something like that.
Dexter, yeah. And I think he's doing life too, or a really long stretch in jail.
Okay, yeah, I think that's what's.
Yeah. I remember the interview was over a phone. It wasn't like a.
And another thing, not to cut you off, Cam, but you see, this is a lot of things that Pac was young. And a lot of the stuff he said was speculation, of course. He thought this person shot him, this person. One of the other guys who just came home, I forget his name, Tut. Somehow Pac thought Tut. And when I seen the interview with Tut, and he was like, man, we know not to touch a person like Pac. He said, growing up in our era of New York, Pac coming from the Black Panthers, these people are off limits to us. That's how much they respected the Black Panthers and the movement. You know what I mean? He was like, but we would have never done nothing like that to Pac. So Pac was getting fed a lot of stuff or putting a lot of things that he thought was putting together that he thought was correct, but he made mistakes like everybody else. You know what I mean? He's human. So some people, they blind follow these individuals, but you got to remember Pac was 25. You understand? And then he thought it was Haitian Jack. And then one dude come out and said it was Jimmy Henchman that paid me. Even though he mentioned Jimmy Henchman, he knew that circle was, he was close. You know what I mean? He was close.
Well, the guy that he went up there to do the song for was signed to Jimmy Henchman, I believe.
Yeah, exactly.
I forget the guy's name, but yeah. So I mean, I could see.
Yeah, why?
You know what I'm saying? Him putting two and two together for that.
Yeah, for that one. Yeah. But he thought all of them was at one point. He was like, man, he thought it was all of them. And I guess because Haitian Jack had a reputation in New York, he was like, extorting all the rappers and, you know what I mean? And he was always in that crowd. That's why Jersey, we different, bro. I thank God the way we were, because we ain't afraid of no gangsters. No, like, we just cut different. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I never understand how you let somebody just extort you like that. But I guess it is what it is. Some people just made like that. We come from a different, I don't know, bro. I never understood that part. You know what I mean? When he was like, man, he just really like, these rappers just giving him money. Like, I guess that's the type of, where I'm from and the way I was raised, that ain't happening, bro. We just going, whatever you want to do, we got to do it.
Yeah, you gonna have to kill me to get this money.
Yeah, we men over here, bro. It ain't happening, man.
I'm trying to find this interview, man, because I interviewed a guy called Ali Zo Adam, and he said, you remember when Suge got shot in the thigh?
I think so.
When he was in Florida?
Yeah.
He says he was the one that shot him. Okay, now I seen at one point, you meet Suge or you have an incident with Suge when he's standing next to Petey Pablo.
Yeah. I had a dude named Tef. He tried to Suge always was a problem. It don't matter if you go to a award show, he be barking for real. Hey, Buster, get up, man. Missy, get up. Get the fuck up, man. My man got to sit down. He always, we had the Vibe Awards, BT Awards, the awards. Dr. Dre, about to get an award with Quincy Jones and Snoop. He got his little man Magic, the swing on Dre, pop. You know what I'm saying? They stop it. You know what I'm saying? Them G-Unit niggas there, but ain't nothing really go down, you know what I'm saying? But we in the back trying to holler at Suge, and he just acting like he just sitting down in the chair. I ain't got nothing to do with it. Man, I ain't got nothing to do with it, man. Man, I ain't got nothing to do with it. But like, man, this dude here, man, he's steady bringing on a uncomfortable environment in all these award shows. Whenever he see a whole gang of them, man, he putting down and doing a little too much. But we get the drop on him, man, in Miami. You know what I'm saying? Red Room, Shore Club. P.D. Pablo right there. P.D. Pablo called me 2 weeks after that. We chill and talk, Little nothing, walk around. See Jim Jones too. Hey, man, get the fuck on, man. Hit him in a little thigh. Pop! And he screamed, get a little picture, and
And I was trying to find this interview to see, because I know the Haitian Jack was mixed in to that situation too.
Okay.
But I can't.
Yeah, from what they said, he was serious back in the day. You know what I mean? In New York in that era.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to see how everything unfolded.
Yeah.
One thing I see people say a lot too, man. That I don't see them say it as much. Hip hop has changed a lot, but back when people were still kind of on that thug, and you had Ja Rule put the cross on his back, and Tupac was like really influential into like the next phase of hip hop. When it came to like the early 2000s, you could still see his influence very, very heavy on a lot of rappers.
Real talk, yeah. True.
What do you think Tupac would have thought of that when how everybody was so influenced by him?
He probably would have loved it. I think he might have even seen it at some point when he was alive. You know what I mean? Like at some point when he was alive, and he respected that. Because I remember he saying like a lot of the stuff that Snoop was doing back then, he was getting from Pac. A lot of people don't know that. Dear God, I wonder, can you save me? You know what I mean? What else? It was or Pac did that from Snoop. No, Snoop took a line where he was like, I got my mind on my money and my money on my mind. Pac said that line first, and Pac showed some love back to Snoop by saying, dear God, I wonder, can you save me? So Pac was saying that he respected that type of camaraderie in hip hop. You know what I mean? Like he was loving when people take his stuff and do it and mix it over. And for him, he loved it because he that's what he was. He was an artist. So he was big on that, So he's seen that, like, it was some artists when he was alive that was really, taking some style and stuff from him, for sure.
Now, Jay-Z gets a lot of flack for redoing Me and My Girlfriend.
Yeah.
Because they say Pac didn't mess with Jay.
Yeah.
Do you think that their issue was serious? What do you think, Pac would have thought of that?
I think that's a mature thing to do, and I'm going to tell you why. Because you got to be really mature to be dissed by a person. And hip-hop, because, hip-hop is about egos, pride, masculinity. I'm not a punk. We come from that era. So similar to Dre, when Dre brought out the hologram of Pac on stage, Pac was dissing him before he died, but Dre brought out the Pac to show that they respect for him. So I think when it comes to that, it's a level of respect that you got to humble yourself, that this man dissed you, and you humbling yourself, you doing one of his records over to show pretty much homage to him. I think that's from respect in my eyes. And it got to take a level of maturity to do that. Like Nas, Pac, that song came out when Pac dissing Nas. for Nas to just let it go, can't do nothing, and still gives respect to Pac, it's all from maturity. You know what I mean? Like, it takes a mature individual in my eyes that can do something like that, you know?
Yeah, I remember, man. Look, the fans were mad at Jay for that one.
Yeah. Especially his fans, yeah.
Yeah, Tupac fans.
Yeah, Pac
No,
fans.
yeah, I was talking about Tupac. Tupac fans.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, they ain't like
Tupac. I mean, they didn't like it, man. I mean, Tupac fans were. I mean, they were crazy even up to that point. That was like what 03?
Yeah,
so that was
they
like
was a little crazy. Yeah, they got a little older now, so kind of calmed down. They grandfathers now, so that might have grandmothers and grandfathers probably calmed down, but they still out there, bro.
What was the whole beef with Jay over?
Jay
just over him being Biggie's homie?
Nah, it was a video. So it was a video with Pac and with Jay-Z and Biggie was in. I think it was a Jay-Z video or whatever. And then Jay-Z, they was playing dice and he was like, on the West Coast, there's a lot of money out there. Like the East Coast was taking a lot of shots at the West Coast. People don't know that. You know what I mean? And then another time, Biggie had a song where he was like something like, if Faith have twins, she would have two Pacs. And I believe Jay-Z was also in that song. So Pac like, okay, if he dissing me, you know what I mean? You on the song, you part of it. You down with it, you know what I mean? So he kept, once again, a lot of these subliminal messages that rappers back then was doing from New York. And when Pac was going at anybody who was coming at the West Coast. So not only he was ready to take anybody beef, if you diss the West Coast, he's ready to just come at you. So when Jay-Z said in that video, like, there's a lot of money on the West Coast, I want to go get some of that or something like that, Pac took it as a diss.
You know, and I remember that line too. If Faith have twins, she probably have two Pacs.
And I think, and if I'm not mistaken, because it's been years, I believe Jay-Z is on that song too.
Yeah. That's Brooklyn's Finest.
Yeah, so he look at it like, okay, you joined the beef.
Yeah, was that it doesn't sound like a diss. It just kind of sounds like he's confirming that Faith hooked up with Tupac.
Exactly, really, yeah. But also it's a diss because a lot of people used to say, that's why he said on that song, get it, two Pacs. Because people just say it's two of Tupacs. They said he had two personalities. So that's the subliminal MCs from New York. And because he said if Faith have twins, she will have two Pacs. Get it? Two Pacs. Like it's two of you. You know what I mean? 1 minute you cool, 1 minute you like that. So they used to try to come at Pac like that as well.
Okay. That's it. Okay. I didn't even know that or think of that. That's okay. That's crazy. Okay. You know, I interviewed Dame Dash. And he said that him and Jay, they went looking for Tupac at the MTV Music Awards. You know, and you guys got dragged into that situation, man. What was that like for you at that point in time? You know, like what was going on when you guys heard Tupac dissing you guys?
I mean, Jay wrote a record, and you know, we tried to step to Tupac in at the MTV Music Awards. It was the same awards where he had the walkie-talkies and the big jury. So me and Jay went, and we could only get tickets for ourselves. And I remember Jay gave me a razor blade, you know, Brooklyn niggas and shit. And I didn't know how. He was like, yo, you know, we get into it, no matter how big they are, just cut them in the face, they'll stop. And I was like, okay, that'll work. And we would go to his seat in between the commercials, but he was running around fronting on everybody. Like, I remember Buster running up to me and saying that he had just pulled the gun on Nas, or, you know, a bunch of shit was going on. So then we ended up running into Suge, and we had a quick conversation, and, you know, Eric B. and Ed Lover were there, and they just sort of like, because Jay was just like, yo, you know, do you know me? Or like, my name is Jay-Z, and Suge was like, I don't know you. And then, you know, they kind of broke it up. We went to the bathroom. It wasn't like a big deal or nothing.
I don't believe that. He could say it, but I don't believe that. And I'm going to tell you why. Because that MTV Award, we was there. It's not like we was tucked in. We was available for anybody that was looking for us. You understand? So he was looking for what? Like to confront him, like some drama?
Yeah. He
He
said
must
he
have went
said he
to.
found Suge, but they didn't run into Tupac. He said Tupac was running around the whole time.
If you want Pac and you see Suge, why not say, yo, my man, where Pac at? Like, we gonna wait with you until we, you know what I mean? So I think a lot of people be saying all that stuff now because nobody here to like check him. But Pac was running around everywhere, but he was approachable. If you really wanted to see him, you would have got him, especially if you see Suge. If you see Suge, then you know Pac is right not too far. You could have just asked Suge, like, yo, I want to holler at Pac. You know what I mean? If you really if you really was looking for him, you know what I mean?
Cold 187 said the Pac came up to him at an award show asking if he saw Jay-Z because he wanted to get at him. I heard that they were going to meet up like a week later or something.
With Nas?
With Nas, like in Vegas or something, I think somebody mentioned.
Probably, I mean, Nas, like I said, Nas was on some Pete shit at that point. He wasn't tripping. He was like, I ain't tripping with you, man. I ain't got no problem with you. Because Pac was on a rampage like, whoever got a problem with me, I'm dissing you. You know what I mean? He didn't have a problem with it. You know, because he was fed up with like Puffy. He was fed up with all them dudes. That night he was on a mission. You know, Jay and them was there, but he was like, yeah. Because when I seen him earlier, he came up to Al, well, you know how they had a break, for the award shows, the commercial breaks. He came up and he was like, man, what's up, man? I heard Jay-Z was up in. I said, yeah. I was like, they was in the section that we was in, but it was a break, so people left the seats. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure they probably left for the break, homie. Like, but they was here. He was like, yeah, I want to get at that. Like, he was on a rampage that night.
You know, that's crazy. I interviewed Dame Dash about this,
Mm-hmm.
and Dame Dash said that they were looking for Tupac that night to try to talk to him about the disses that were supposed to be.
They might have been. Because at the after party, you know, at the after party, you know, it's all game. You can't be up moving around like that doing the award shows because they filming. So, so at the after party, I wouldn't doubt it. I would not doubt all of that because all that shit was going on that night. You know, no, he had an issue with them. Honestly, Cam, I don't know why he doing Bunny and Clyde and all that shit. He wasn't fucking with them. He wasn't fucking with none of them, man. Ain't nobody gonna tell you. I'm a walking encyclopedia, homie. I was there. He wasn't fucking with none of them. He's my friend. He wasn't fucking with none of them, homie. I'm telling you. He was about to smash them dudes. Something real bad, whoever wanted it. You know?
So Tupac was on a rampage that night. Okay.
Absolutely.
See? That's a legend right there, Code 187 OGs right there. And let me just correct, like, me saying that I don't think so doesn't mean I'm 100% correct. I'm just saying I don't think that year at the MTV Award, nobody wanted to approach us. I believe so. That's why I have a lot. Nas boys and them said a little something with us. They found us, but I don't believe Jay-Z and you know what I mean, was looking for him. That's my opinion. But if he could be correct though, I'm just saying I don't think he was. You know what I mean. You really was looking for Pac, but. You go ahead, bro. I just want to clarify that.
Okay, said it would be easy to find Pac if you guys want.
Yeah.
If someone wanted to find him, it would have been easy.
I can be wrong. I'm not trying to say.
A convo.
Yeah, I can be wrong. I don't want to make it seem like everybody in New York was soft. You know what I mean? Maybe he was looking for Pac, but it would be hard for me to believe it because if you really want to Pac at the MTV Awards, once you seen Suge, you could have been like, "Yo, bro, I'm not leaving till you. I need to holler at Pac." You know what I mean? So
now, I heard that Jay-Z was in the Hit 'Em Up record or at the end of it too. And that like it got cut out or the mic started
somebody said that.
malfunctioning.
Somebody said that, but I don't remember, to be honest. I heard someone say it, and some people said that he got a call and make him take it out. Something weird like that, bro. But I don't remember, to be honest.
I seen a Vlad TV clip where Bone was saying that Tupac got at them for using Thug in their name.
Yeah. I remember Pac said something like the first time that back in the day, we used to have this thing, I think it was called, I forget what it was, where you, I was there actually. We was in New York City. He was walking with Thug Life. I would say it was like 94, 95. I had like a white bubble jacket on. And he was like, yeah, the next video gonna be Bone. It was supposed to be Bone Thugs and Harmony, but Pac got at him. And it was because they was using thugs, the word thug, you know what I mean? But Pac at the end, you know, he grew to respect them. Like he grew to respect Bone Thugs. You see, he went and did a song with him. He just really grew to respect them. But I guess they was new on the scene and he was promoting thug life heavy. Then they come out with Bone Thugs, so he probably felt some type of way. But he grew to respect them, and they had their own lane. You know, so I guess Pac realized like they got their own lane. They ain't trying to like, you know, take anything from us, and he grew to respect them dudes.
Were you around when they squashed the beef?
I remember going to the studio. I wouldn't even say it was a beef. I don't think it was a beef. You know what I mean? I don't think it was beef. And I got a lot of love for like Lazy Bone, Busy Bone. We hung out with them a lot because when Steve Lobel used to manage us and manage them, and they had a tour where they brought the Outlaws on a tour after Pac died, and they didn't have to do that. So I got a lot of respect for them. But I don't think it was a beef. You understand? I never heard Pac say he beefing with them or even diss him on a record. It was that clip from that television show. I forget what it was. VH1 of something box, music box or something like that. He said it, but it wasn't that. It ain't going nowhere after that.
Well, shout out to them too. They just got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
I seen that. Yeah, because when Bone Thugs came out, you got to realize they had their own lane, bro. They was different. They wasn't really trying to. They really made their own lane. So I guess when Pac seen that, he probably was like, man, I probably was a little hasty. Because he thought that people was trying to sell that thug flow, that thug concept, that thug life, but they was totally different.
And you said you went to the studio with them? Were you around when they made the song?
I was there when they did the song. You know, Pac went to do the song, relay his verse. One of them was there. I forget whoever was there, but one of them was in the studio. And North Hollywood, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was Busy.
Yeah, Busy.
I think I seen Busy talk about it.
Yeah, he was one of them.
He was the one that brought the record to the rest of them too, and was like, "Yo, look what I got."
Yeah, it was only one at that time. Yeah.
Now, we kind of touched on this earlier, but you know, Mobb Deep calling themselves thugs too. With the whole, you know, Nas and
they was taking shots.
You know,
they definitely was taking shots. So when they be coming like, we don't know why Pac dissed us, because I recall that. I remember that time. You know what I mean? I remember that time, and they was all taking shots at Pac. Thug life, we still living it. Fake thug, no love. Like they was coming at Pac hard. He was locked up. So when he came out dissing him, you know, it was crazy because we talked to one of the homies. I just say L. He from LA, one of Pac homies, but he live in Atlanta. And he was like, and he did some time, you know, 20 years, just came home recently. And I think Pac know him from Big Psych. And I spoke to him a couple months ago. He's like, man, y'all remember I had to stop y'all from shooting Mobb Deep? He said, this is what he said. He said, man, y'all youngsters outside of a club in Atlanta, and I had to really talk y'all out of it because Mobb Deep was there. You know what I mean? He's like, that's how ignorant we was taking this. He was like, man, y'all was ready to shoot up the tour bus or something crazy. And he said, I had to talk you youngsters out of it. You know what I mean? And Pac was in jail at this time. So we was so heated because Pac just got shot. He just got shot up and he then went to prison, and then they was dissing him. So we looking at like, you know, they Mobb Deep is in town and stuff like that. So he brought that up. Even me, I don't remember. You know what I mean? A lot of stuff I don't recall, but when he brought, I said, man, you sure? He's like, man, I remember like it was yesterday. So we wasn't just walking around bullying people or, you know, making things up, you know, looking people to start a fight with. Anybody that Pac diss, and I can say, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I remember anybody that he dissed on the record, they came at him first. You know, besides Nas when he clarified it, but Mobb Deep they definitely was taking shots. Because Pac said in the interview, I'm not living thug life anymore. They came out with a song, Thug Life, we still living it. And they was taking shots. You can't say that you was, you know, showing homage without shouting Pac out, you know what I mean? So that's how Pac was looking at it back then, man, that all these people was taking these subliminal messages while I'm down. You know, I think it hurt him because he like, man, I just got shot. This lady said, you know, locked me up for some type of sexual assault, and people really kicking me while I'm down. So I kind of knew that. I get why he was pissed.
You know what's crazy is you brought up all that, and in the interview, Pac said he was like, "Yeah, I'm in jail and I'm calling my little homies like they got a show in Atlanta."
Yeah, that's how we went there. That's what L remember. He's like, man, so Pac found out that they had a show. We went to the show, and I think we was waiting for him to get out of. When he explained it, of course, my memory started coming back. But we was about to, you know what I mean? Thank God nothing happened. Then another time we ran into him after Pac died, and we talked like men. You know what I mean? I ran into Prodigy. I think we was in Arizona. A Mexican homie brought him out there to do a show. And he kind of let us know they was there. He was like, if y'all want whatever y'all want to do, let's do it. And I was just like, instead of ambushing them like that and catching them, let me go to them face to face and talk like a man. You know what I mean? I knocked on their door. I remember one of their homies opened the door and I was like, let me holler at you. So Prodigy came out and I confronted him. Literally, I was like, bro, what's up with this? Y'all was dissing Pac and this and this and that. And he was like, man, I got love for Pac. Like, we never dissed him. He was like, we got love for him, never dissed him. And we ended it there because he was showing a lot of respect. Like, I got a lot of respect for Pac. I think they might have dissed him after Pac dissed him or something, but at the end of it was just, he basically was like, it was a misunderstanding with whatever. You understand? And we really love Pac. Like, we love Pac and we shook hands. There's actually a video, like a YouTube when me and him embracing, you know what I mean? And yeah, it's a video of myself and him, and I said in the video, like, look, we squashed the beef. They say they got nothing but love for Pac and stuff like that. So, but even if they diss Pac back, I guess Pac dissed them first. That's how it goes. You know what I mean? So everybody not a sucker.
I hear that, man. Okay, I seen an interview with Master P, and that he said that him and Tupac got into it, but he didn't really go into any details. Were you around during that time? Do you know about that situation?
I think Master P, from what it seemed like, he met Pac before he even got into the music industry. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was just getting involved in the industry. But that when we was around, they wasn't out yet. So he knew Pac probably from the Bay Area, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Master P had a CD shop up there.
Yeah, one time he was in the Bay Area heavy. Like, he used to always be out there.
Okay. Because he said he was like hanging around Pac, or, he opened up for him a few times.
He probably did, though. Master P, a hustler, bro. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised because he did come up. He had a lot of love for Pac, too.
Did you guys have a relationship with Monster Cody?
I'm trying to think if I ever met Monster Cody. Maybe. We might have met him one time. I definitely wouldn't say I had no relationship with him. I knew who he was. You know what I mean? I knew who he was because Pac spoke highly of him all the time. Pac spoke highly of him and had a lot of respect for him. But I had never met him. I remember Pac used to tell us about his book and stories about him and stuff like that. But I never had a relationship with him. That was more like Pac homie.
Did you hear the leaked phone call between them?
I heard it years ago. That was dope. Yeah, they were trying to do.
That was kind of crazy.
Yeah, they were trying to push some positivity, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that was kind of like, I think he said that he recorded it off his answering machine or something.
Yeah.
And that so that was kind of like, kind of cool to hear. You know what I'm saying? Like something that, you probably wouldn't, get to hear, like just a normal conversation that.
Yeah, that was dope. And they really wanted to push some positivity and stuff like that. So that was dope. Mm-hmm.
Well, Keefe D is going to be going on trial for the murder of Tupac. We're looking at like 30 years later.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
It's crazy because we living in a different time. I guess he brought everything on himself. You understand? He brought everything on himself. Like the internet talking. You know what I mean? And with arrogance too. I seen one time he was like, man, when we was shooting Pac, it was like he was breakdancing. Like no remorse. Like arrogance, like, you know what I mean? And so he brought that on himself, bro.
I mean, looking back, did you ever think anybody would ever get arrested for it?
I didn't. I didn't think that they was taking it serious, to be honest. Pac wasn't pro police force or whatever you want to say, but even though he used to say, I respect the police that do their job, it's a lot of crooked cops, but I know there's some good cops too. Pac used to keep that, but I never thought that, they'd be rushing to solve his case because of what he stood for. You understand? So I never really thought it was going to happen.
Right. I've heard a lot of people say that Tupac really hated the police. He had a pretty good hatred for
Of
him.
course, because of what he went through. But, like Pac said, and I think in some interviews, he was like, I respect honest police that do their job because of they go out there every day and they put their life on the line. He said, I just hate the crooked cops. You understand? If I'm not mistaken, I believe he said that in one of his interviews. He used to say it a lot that, if you're an honest cop, which you do have honest cops, you know what I mean? Like you do got some. I remember growing up, we had some crooked cops here, slap us in the back of the head because we were on the corner. And then you got some that really come and give you some good advice, and you never forget that. Never forget the advice of the ones who was really like seeing you, could have arrested you, let you slide, and say, like, we have those people in the hood, and they give you that good advice. So, but you know what I mean? He of course, look what he went through, what his parents went through with the Black Panthers, with the police and stuff like that. For him to go through all that with the police and still say, I respect the honest ones, you know what I mean? It showed that he was trying to keep it real, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I hear you. Did you see Murder Rap?
Murder Rap. That came a long time ago, right? The Netflix joint?
Yeah. It was the documentary that Greg Kading's put out, which, kind of broke everything down and used the Keefe confession and everything first.
I think I might, but came out a while ago, right?
It's been a while. Yeah, at least probably almost 10 years now.
I might have seen it or heard about it or seen some trailers about it. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, boy, he put himself in there. The thing is about the internet, you know what I mean? Where arrogance, though. I guess when you're arrogant, you think you got away with something because he had that profit agreement, not knowing that a profit agreement is something that whatever you say there during that sitting, they can't hold it against you. But he put out a book, started doing interviews, and he was arrogant with it. He was breakdancing, and you know what I mean? I guess he really thought nothing could happen to him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he probably was like, nothing gonna happen to me. Because he was out of Compton, out of LA. Most of the people that probably would have, like that's from Compton who wanted to do, probably would have tried to do something to him is dead or in prison. I'm talking about like, Suge Hood that was beefing with him, his homies. So he probably was like, you know what, it is what it is. And he kept saying he wasn't a shooter. That's what he was saying. Like he seen the shooter do this. So he probably thought he was, took himself out of that equation. You understand? But because he blamed it on somebody in the car that passed away, I think.
Yeah, he says Orlando did it. Yeah, he says. I mean, the thing is, he says he passed the gun to Orlando.
Damn.
And he, and he wrote a book about this, and they just came out and said that they're gonna allow the book in as part of the trial.
Wow. And he wrote the book. He said these things. So whatever comes his way is from his own hands. Whatever you get, he the one that brought it on himself.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's, sheesh. It being so long, I remember when everything happened and he started doing these interviews and, I just remember like looking into like a proffer, like, bro, I even asked him when I interviewed him, like, why didn't you get immunity or, a proffer? And he like kind of went off on me, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I do have immunity. And, I was like, nah, I don't think so, bro. Like, it's just a proffer. So you had a proffer deal. So that means whatever you say during that day was like nothing could ever be used against you.
Exactly.
During that day.
Yeah.
How come you didn't ask for like complete immunity?
I did.
They wouldn't give it to you?
I did. I'm sitting here.
Well, the proffer deal is only good for
What
that
you said
day.
that? No. Man, that's why I'm still sitting here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yo, people ignorant, bro. That's that. Yeah, that's some ignorant stuff. Talking about dude got immunity. He was ignorant with that stuff, bro. That's the problem. They probably told him that and he believed it. Like, don't worry. It probably was a setup for him. Like, going out
The
there.
cops probably
Yeah, the
told
cops
him.
probably told him,
Yeah.
like, going out there, you got immunity, buddy. And he probably fell for it.
Yeah.
It's
Damn.
crazy, though.
Damn. You know, it would bring, if he does get convicted, you know, like the family, you know, how do you think the family will feel about it? You know, what's your thoughts on it if he
I think
gets
the
convicted?
family probably would feel like some type of justice is done. I believe that, like his family, of course. Of course, I know they're gonna want that for their they healing or what they going through. You know what I mean? So I'm sure his family for them they're gonna feel like it's justice. You know, for sure. Because
Yeah.
they not street. You know, his family they not looking at it from a street standpoint of view. They looking at it like, you took the life of our loved one, and we want justice to come your way. And if it takes this way for us to feel like we know who killed that, because they probably want to know who killed their son or their brother or their, cousin or uncle. You know what I mean? Closure. It might be his closure.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, what's crazy about it is it seems like they could have did this a really long time ago.
I don't really think they care too much. You know what I mean? They really don't care too much. To them, this is Pac had a lot of songs speaking against the system. You know what I mean? Had a lot of songs speaking out against the system. So for them, they looking at it like it is what it is. And they probably would have never solved it. This guy solved his own case, actually. You know what I mean? Like, they probably, if he would have never thought he had that immunity, they probably would have never even, So they not really caring, bro. They're not really trying to solve no case of a person like Pac who really spoke out against the system. And, to them, they look at it like, we don't care about this young guy. He probably was a threat to society to them.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I can't even imagine. If they would have solved this thing like 20 years ago, I mean, it would have been crazy.
Yeah.
And it definitely feels like they could have.
I'm sure they could. If they wanted to, man, I'm sure. You know what I mean? Like, if they wanted to, man, they would have definitely.
What'd you think about all the documentaries and crazy accusations that were coming out after Tupac died? And then, it seems like we kind of got the truth now. But man, there was some wild stuff going on.
Most of the time I knew they was over the top with it and, conspiracy theories. I never really paid attention too much about it. Like I already knew, like, people make up all types of stuff. Like when I seen some of the stuff that people were saying, I was like, man, yeah, this next level. Like, the time we living in with this, and people really believe this stuff. Like people really believe these conspiracy. Like he living in Cuba, and they really believe it. One guy was dead serious with a straight face, like I helped him escape the hospital. I'm like, yo, what type of grown man would just lie like that? Like he's a grown man, like he got kids. Like, you must be the biggest loser on the internet. Like, you will really fix your face to be straight, look in the camera and say, I help him escape the Las Vegas hospital. Like, what's your point? Like, if you was a kid, I could see, but this is a grown man, beard, everything. So you got a lot of crazy weirdos out here, bro.
Yeah, I mean, the internet has brought out the crazy lies, man. So, but they've been going on. They just weren't as accessible and as noticeable as it is now.
Because that's true. Now we see it, and everybody got access to just say whatever they want to say. They can be nutcases and psychos, and nothing can stop them. Like as long as they got that Wi-Fi, they can put out whatever they want. You know what I mean? That's the time we living in. And now you got the AI, what's making it even more crazy. Because now, like, I think it's just gonna get worse and worse. Like, but people gonna have to really sit back and want to know if this true or not. Is this real? Is this video real? Is this voice real? Because now they can replicate your voice or duplicate this voice. Like we living in some crazy times, bro.
It is crazy. They can duplicate your voice. They can make you say whatever it is they want you to say.
Yeah.
And it's gonna sound just like you.
It's
That's
getting
nuts,
worse.
man.
Yeah, it's getting crazy. It's crazy.
You know, you mentioned this guy talking about he helped Tupac escape the hospital. You know, when he passed away, you know, you were there the whole time, the whole week and everything
Yeah, I was there
with
like
him?
the day he got shot. I would say I probably got to Vegas the very next day. We drove to Vegas the very next day, and I was there, and up until he passed away.
You know, what was it like when he was in the hospital? You know, did he ever wake up? Did he ever say anything? How many surgeries did he have?
I'm not sure. They definitely they put him in a induced coma. And I believe because we stayed out the room, his mother and them didn't want too many people coming in and out of the room. We mainly was security because people was calling the hospital threatening him, and they had him on the first floor in the back of the hospital, his window. So we really like Goldie, who was a producer, you know, a video producer in the Outlaws, and Storm. We really had to rotate shifts just to sit in front of the van with straps because people started saying they know what floor he on, what hospital room, and so our focus was on that. Of course, we thinking that he's gonna make it. His mother very strong, so I remember she kept saying, "Yeah, he's getting better." She's just a positive woman, and so I think we all thought that he was gonna make it. You know, that the word was getting out that he's improving, and the next thing we know, he passed away. So it took us all by surprise, you know. And I thought like he got shot before he survived. I think I walked into the room one time and he was already in an induced coma. So they had wires down his throat. You see his body, face, everything swollen. And that's when I realized it was serious, you know, like this looked, more serious than what I can phantom than what I was imagining. And yeah, that was it. I just, not too long after that, he passed away. Not sure how many exact days, but he passed away not too, after the time I seen him.
If Tupac would have lived, would he have been the same? Or do you think were the bullets bad enough where it would have had a major effect on his life?
Some people say that because I believe he had to remove a finger, a lung. So he definitely, if he would have survived, which I always don't like to say if, because whatever happened, happens, We have a statement where the Prophet Muhammad said, don't say if, because it's open up the doors to the devil, meaning that he can play with people when they, mindset and stuff when it comes to that. But he probably wouldn't have been the same because of the at least physical, aspect of him losing a finger and a lung and stuff like that. You understand? So, and it's one of them things that it's the unseen, so we don't really know. We don't really know, to be honest.
Yeah, I remember, when he got shot that second time, man, and I everybody who I knew and the fans and they all were thinking the same thing. Oh, that's just Tupac. It's no big deal. He already got shot. He's gonna be all right.
Yeah.
And I remember when he died, man. It was a surprise for the fan.
Yeah.
From my point of view too.
Yeah, it shocked us all, and I guess. That's life though, bro. When it's written for you, nothing you can do to escape it. You know what I mean? So, that's life. But I guess because of this, the situation, it happened so fast. It just really happened so fast. So we didn't really, we just automatically you think good of your homeboy, like, yeah, he gonna bounce back, But, it was written for him that day.
What did you think when you heard the cops who arrived first? And they were, I think this was on Vlad, and they asked him, like, who did this to you? And he was just like, F you. And those were like his last words.
That sound like Pac, though. When it sound like something, that's him. You know what I mean? So it definitely sound like Pac. So when I seen that interview, and so I said, yeah, that's something that, Pac would have said. Knowing him, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he kept the code all the way to the very end. He didn't start snitching or, what I'm saying? None of that.
Yeah, that's the Pac that I know. That's the, so it definitely sound like something Pac would have said, you know what I mean? Because that was his mindset back then. And that's how he was. So I wasn't surprised, actually.
Man, okay. Before we get out of here, man, I gotta ask you about this, man. I seen that you and Tyron Turner got into a fight.
Yeah. You know.
Okay, what happened between you guys, man? You know?
So we got to it, you know, that I was pulling up in the studio with my homeboy Doc. They used to hang out with Jodeci a lot. He was real cool with Jodeci, and I guess they was in the same studio. First we seen him at the liquor store, and we had some words before. I forgot what it was really over, or it might be irrelevant to even go into the details of what it was over. And we had some words. So when I got into the studio, we had some words. So we said, let's just fight. You know, we both got into the street, parking lot, you know, and we fought. You know what I mean? I can definitely say that, because I'm the type of person, I never turned down a fade a day in my life. You understand? You win some, you lose some. I've never been the type of person that's gonna. I just never been. I never been the type to say I won everything. So I would definitely say that match. I would say I give him the credit because, you know, Tyron, he was always ahead of the game with exercising, being in shape. He didn't drink, he didn't smoke. I think I was already intoxicated, damn near can walk, strapped up. But we fought, you know what I mean? We fought, not to make no excuses, we fought. And I think what happened, we locked up. So when we locked up, at one point my gun fell. And I think that shocked him because he's saying like, man, this dude fighting all this time and he got a gun. You know, LA, you know, it's easy to just do your thing, you know what I mean? And so I passed the gun to my homie Doc and I was like, let's continue. But I think that shocked him. He's like, man, now I see a gun involved. Like, no, we good. You know what I mean? We good. And I was like, no, let's shake hands. And he was like, we good. And then by that time, my homies, my brothers, my homies, everybody, they came. And when I mean they came, you know what I mean? They came, like pull up and they jumped out and I stopped it. And I was like, nah, because we fought a head up. Like, ain't nothing gonna happen to him. You know what I mean? We fought a head up. And I think he always respected me for that because he's seen that the people that came was ready to take it further. They was ready to take it, you know, where it was kind of uncalled for. But that was the mindset back then. You know how it is. You fought one of us now. Okay, you know, but I stopped that. And then we always had respect for each other after that.
Okay, I think you said it happened because you told him like he's just an actor.
Yeah, but we was already arguing.
He wasn't tough.
That was the argument. Like while we going back and forth, I was like, man, you an actor, bro. You know what I mean? That's why we already in the heated conversation. Like, man, you ain't about to do nothing. This ain't Minister Society or something like that. I could have said, man, you an actor. But he, you know, he got hands. It was a good little fade though. You know what I mean? It's a good fade. That lets you know that you don't sleep on nobody. You know, because he really from his family, from the hood. They really from it. And but it was and like I said, he had hands.
I think he's been in a few famous fights, right? If I remember seeing it on the internet.
And I could have been like, bro, I could have been like 18 years old, young. He's way older than me. But it was what it is. It was you know what I mean? We had a lot of respect for each other, even up to this day.
Well, that's what's up, man.
Yeah,
that's dope.
My people that rolled up, they was ready to take it on another level, and like, without going into detail. But I just never been that type of dude, bro. Like, there's no need to jump you. There's no need, like, we fought. Whatever, you want to run it back, we run it back. If not, I'm not gonna have my man, like my brothers and my homies and them. Like, I'd always look at it like that's the coward way to go about it. You understand? Like, they're gonna be like, bro, you know, why you get them involved? So I ain't never been on that type of stuff, really. Don't get me wrong, we was wild and we did some wild things. But I'm the type, I come from that cloth. If you call me out for a fade, even when I'm strapped, I gotta fight that fade. We gotta fight. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna pull out a weapon. You understand? So that's the way I was raised.
Yeah, you don't see too much of that nowadays.
Yeah, you get these youngsters nowadays, bro. It's crazy because it ain't none of that. It's no code. They're gonna take your life and destroy their life. Sad, you understand? But it's no, you fight. If you lose, you lose. At least you fight. You know what I mean? We come from that code that we only look down on people who didn't fight. Like if you get called out for a fade and you don't do it, that's more of a coward. to us because you didn't do it. But to pull out a gun and just in somebody's life, and you know it happened by a lot of youngsters, and they don't realize it till they 20 years in prison. They realize they would have took that fade or they wouldn't have threw their life away. You know what I mean? You win, you lose, whatever it is. Mike Tyson lost fights. He ain't a coward.
Mike Tyson lost fights, yeah.
But you got to be respected though if you put your hands up.
They try to always compare rappers to Tupac. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when Nipsey passed away, Nipsey got killed. You know, when King Von got killed, they always make like a lot of comparisons to Tupac. What's your thoughts when you see something like that?
It depends. I don't really like. I stopped listening to music. I never heard a Nipsey Hussle record, but I seen some of his interviews, for example, and some of the stuff that he was saying and the ideas and trying to better his community is similar to what Pac was on. So I can see that. I don't know too much about what's his name? Von, what is it?
King Von?
I don't really know too much about day life and stuff like that, but I did see some Nipsey Hussle interviews, and he was a sharp young man with the stuff that he was saying we're trying to do for the community. So I could see why they could probably say he got some Pac in him, or compare him to Pac.
Yeah, a lot of people say that Nipsey was doing the things that Tupac wanted to do, that Tupac didn't get a chance to do, because Nipsey passed away, he was in his 30s. So, he was a little older and he had a little more time.
Yeah, got a little more mature and stuff like that.
Man, well, Napoleon, man, I really appreciate you.
Anytime, man. I'm glad to be back on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you, man, for sure.
Appreciate it, man.
For sure, man. I appreciate you, man. Good luck with everything, man. I know you. What do you got? You got your businesses going on, man.
Yeah, so we got we opened up a restaurant, smoke barbecue restaurant, Smoky Beers, in Saudi Arabia. I got some Saudi partners, American partners, and we recently opened like 3-4 months ago in Fort Worth, Dallas. So I'm here now for the second branch of our restaurant. So next time you're in Fort Worth, Dallas, come check us out, bro.
I got to. If I've never been to Fort Worth, but if I go, I definitely got to go there for sure.
For sure.
And check it out, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, bro. Appreciate you, man. All right, bro.
Peace.
All right, bro. Later, man. What's up? This Cam Capone. If you want to hear these interviews with all the cuss words in it, all the stuff we had to take out because YouTube makes us cut a lot out, all you got to do is become a member. Hit that button.